Welcome. Let's see, today is July 21st, 2026. I believe the only thing we've got on today's agenda, this is the singular one, we've got a work session today to look at our ordinances, language, adjustments that need to be made, things that need to be cleared up, clarified. So what that means is this is a work session. This is a work session that we're going to be somewhat graceful and allow questions, comments, thoughts about the things that we are actually covering as part of this work session. With that being said, that'll be given as a courtesy, and I will give very strict direction on when it's time to stop talking. It's time for you to stop talking. With that being said, I've got a couple of questions just to start off, just to figure out what we got. Raise your hand if you've gotten any type of code enforcement violation from the town of Selma. Not a bad mix. Raise your hand if you are a resident of the town of Selma. Very interesting. If you weren't, we'd talk.
Right.
So with that being said, we are going to go through a list of things that I have in notes that particularly our code enforcement officer has mentioned things that need to be looked at. Council has mentioned things that need to be looked at. Staff, all told, has mentioned things to be looked at. And citizens have mentioned things that need to be looked at. First thing on the list, very simply, for staff taking notes, right-of-way clarification. We need to make sure that we simplify the language for right-of-ways and make sure everybody understands their responsibility for right-of-ways so that we don't have to go over how the state of North Carolina works regularly. Just make sure we have it very clear for our purposes as citizens in the town of Selma. But one of the big ticket items in this conversation that we're going to touch on tonight is off-street parking. Raise your hand if you're here interested in off-street parking. Hey, not bad. Off-street parking. This one has given us a considerable amount to think about, a considerable amount of thought has gone into very carefully not finding anybody at this rate for the language that is currently in our ordinances related to off-street parking. Because the way our language reads, it is really very much meant for a solidly urban area. You know, we're talking now your Cary, Apex type area where you're having to pave everything under the sun when you build it. Personal opinion, I think we do need to keep a good mix and balance of a rural feel in our community to maintain what we have. Now, generally, as basic, very straightforward guidance, our ordinance says off-street parking must be paved. Period. How many of you in here have paved parking in your yard? Scant few. How many of you do not have paved parking in your yard? Rock and roll. How many of you need more parking than your driveway allows based on how many vehicles you have or have coming to visit you every once in a while? Oh yeah. We get it. We get it. Whoa, wait. We're not there yet. We're not playing raise your hand. When I open up the floor, we'll open up the floor. So with that being said, we are trying to very much consider how to adjust that. We had the off-street parking ordinance, or off-street parking must be paved in there. And then we also went through a significant period of years where we tried to define whether or not you could pull your car into your yard by saying, hey, if it causes a rut in your yard, or if it kills your grass, or this, that, and the third, that's when it's a violation. We recently attempted to make adjustments to that conversation because, quite frankly, the ordinance that we had on the books made no sense whatsoever if we were trying to limit parking in the middle of your yard. But with that being said, we also said if we make this adjustment, let's see how it affects everybody. It's affected folks. So, council, let me start off with this place. The spirit and the thought of those ordinances related to parking and where you can leave your car and how your yard has to look and all that good stuff. The first thought that is considered in all of that is erosion. Does anybody not know what erosion is? If you go down our streets today, there's a good spot on Noble Street that you'll note that's an extreme case. But if you see after it rains and you've got nothing but dirt in your yard, do you know where all that dirt goes? It goes into our gutters and our stormwater system. Does everybody understand how that works? If anybody does not understand that at all, please let me know. When you do have erosion going into your stormwater system, that sediment that rolls down the street out of your yard goes into very directed pipes, and those very directed pipes go to what is our Moccasin Creek stormwater system, and those deposits settle in ditches that were meant to be left wide open for stormwater. Then what happens over years is your ditches start filling up with dirt, you start getting plants growing in them at an incredible rate, and then one day the corner of Oak Street and Webb Street is flooded. And then a little further down the road, you get the corner of Sharp Street and Dixie flooded. And then one day you get a real bad rain, hurricane comes through, for some reason your stormwater stops, and we're on the news because we're pulling people out of an apartment complex with boats. That happened, that's a thing. Now, on general sense, you would think, yeah, why do they care if your yard has bald spots? Who really notices? Nobody's out here trying to stare at your yard. But there's an actual reason that these things are on the books, particularly in more urbanized and denser areas. So if you go down Noble Street right now, and you get close to Richard B. Harrison, there is a gigantic streak of dirt that goes toward 301, coming away from Harrison, that goes for about 3 or 4 blocks of solid dirt down the side of the street. Because there are multiple yards that have no grass, no gravel, no nothing whatsoever in them. And all that dirt rolls into the street. So that is the genesis of that conversation. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a veneer piece as well. There's a simple understanding of folks not having car lots in their yard just the same. But there are reasons we have these conversations, particularly in denser areas. So, council, I think it's fair to say that having everybody pave their parking spaces is a bit much. Does anybody disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree.
Bit much.
It's a bit much.
That's, concrete's expensive. We don't necessarily need that look in the town of Selma. Now, I would say that we consider that carefully for new construction, folks. But
I would.
new construction, hey,
A given.
yeah, let's not dial that back. But for current upgrading of parking beyond new construction, I don't think we need paved parking. Now, then the question becomes, what type of surfaces? Somebody grab the door for me. Thank you. What type of surfaces we will allow parking as a town of Selma? Gravel, pavers, I think you mentioned pavers at one point in time.
Crush and run the same as gravel use.
Would crush and run count the same as gravel in our language?
I'm wrong.
Yeah, it'd be not Christian, Christian is not.
Okay.
There are several methods of stone, others just pea gravel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Colors. There's a lot of different possibilities for stone. We make it work for
Okay. Yeah, as the crush and run might not.
Christian runs like base for.
Wash away.
Crush and run, it would wash away.
Wash
That's
away.
right. That might not. And so, and again, we do have to make sure that our language is very clear to show that whatever surface we're using prevents erosion. So if we go past your driveway, we go past your yard, and you've got a mud streak down the side of your gutter coming from your yard, that's a pretty clear sign that you got something going on that causes erosion. The other piece that's very clear in our language in multiple places is something that happens in your yard that causes puddling. So if you've got a mud pit in your yard and you don't have grass, it specifically says if something in your yard is letting standing water sit after a rain and you get puddling, it needs to be straightened out. The general idea is you can't just have mud in your yard. Does anybody have any thought about wanting to change that? When we're talking about off-street parking, one at a time, let's raise some hands. What type of questions do we have?
We got to consider,
Just a moment. Yes, sir.
we have to consider the mud if it's new instruction and stuff.
So I do think there are provisions for construction related to mud sitting around. New construction in mud. There are provisions for new construction in mud, particularly if you're in the middle of construction. They have specific guidelines to retain mud and then what we will allow, so on and so forth.
Okay.
Hand up in the
My
back.
question is, how much is the crush and run a load? And it'll probably take more.
So let me stop you right there. That is not our parsing of how much it costs to maintain a home.
So the resident has to do it. Yeah. Or the landlord.
Yeah, you do have to maintain your home.
That was Douglas.
Right here?
Question, one quick question, and then I've got a statement regarding off-street parking. Does the code require that RVs, boats, such as that also, are they held to the same standard as cars being in your yard?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. So, one thing I do want to ask about that is when the code, y'all began to enforce gravel, concrete, asphalt, whatever it may be, was any consideration given to impervious surfaces?
That is the conversation. That is the conversation we're having right now, actually, yes.
But did anyone give consideration to, because as you just said yourself, the drainage system for Selma has been subpar for many years.
Are you talking about having too many impervious surfaces?
Yes.
So yes, in our code already, it explains to you on your property how much of your property can have impervious surface.
Exactly, as does Johnson County, and that's my question.
Mhm.
When you require gravel, concrete, or asphalt, did you take into account that impervious surface? Because gravel actually is.
Absolutely. So that will, and she does make a point, that will remain in force, that no matter what you do to upgrade your yard, you still have to have a certain amount of impervious surface in your yard, no matter how you slice it.
But what if having this gravel and concrete, I mean, how do we know? How do we know that by putting in gravel that we are not over the impervious?
There's this incredibly handsome man sitting in the front right here in a pink shirt. You can come to him when you get your permit to do something major and say,
That's not.
and ask him about how much of your property can be covered by impervious surface. Oh, no, but even then, he will look at your property and say, you can do about this much, or whatever your plan is. He'll say, hey, you're perfectly fine within the
I
guidelines.
just wanted to know because, these things have been required.
That's the end of the conversation there, but thank you for the question. Does anybody else have a question? Right, Ms. Shatisha?
The requirement, like my mom, she's on a fixed income and you have these requirements. How are the people on fixed income in this economy supposed to get up to code?
Unfortunately, and fortunately, it is not for the town of Selma to get into anybody's financial business. We do have code that says you have to maintain your home to a certain standard, and we cannot stop and ask you, what are your finances if you have a hole in the front of your house? That is not something we legally can do or should do. Yes, sir. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I think we have one in the back. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I'll come back.
It sounds like, I guess, the major concern that the town would be having is erosion. So wouldn't it make more sense, instead of all of us having gravel driveways that don't actually stop erosion, if the town put curbs in instead? Because that would border the entire property.
You say curbs?
Curbs, yeah.
You know, the most erosion happens around the areas with curbs. So that would not stop erosion at all.
Well, the Russian one's not gonna stop either.
Crush and run, we just said probably would not be a surface that would be good, but heavy gravel would helps out significantly.
Well, still, heavy gravel's only gonna do what, maybe 8-10 foot wide on the whole property line in front?
Grass and everything.
If erosion.
I'm not sure I understand what you're saying. So you're saying you think gravel would run out into the street?
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm saying at a rate that would, so again, we've gone around and looked at several gravel driveways, several pea gravel driveways, things like that. I can't say I've seen an instance where I've looked up and been like, there's gravel everywhere at this driveway. In fact, we have seen a lot of fantastic gravel driveways where there's no gravel sitting out on the apron, no gravel sitting out in the gutter. We've seen a lot of them. But you're asking about a driveway, which is a completely different conversation. A parking pad is the conversation we're having, which is what off-street parking is. We haven't even touched on driveways yet. But again, I cannot say I concur with your assessment that gravel would run out to the street. We have seen some amazing gravel driveways around this community that have been maintained incredibly well.
I also got one just little follow-up. I'm confused.
We're not having a conversation, just what is your follow-up?
My follow-up is, you cited the code at the beginning of this pertaining to off-street parking. Section 17.
Wait. This is way too long. Do you have a question for us?
Yeah, does section 17.502 apply to section 17.505?
Does it apply?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, okay.
Are you saying,
Sorry.
all right,
Well, you told me to wrap it up.
yeah,
What I was trying to say, 17.501 is the beginning of the sections of what you quoted pertaining to off-street parking.
mm-hmm.
501 is the applicability of the entire section. And the very last sentence of that says, these standards shall not apply to single-family detached dwelling units, duplexes, or townhomes.
As far as what section, you're talking about the off-street parking section
Whole section.
of off-street parking.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying, but there are so many pieces of our code that are, he knows it, that butt up against each other. That's why we're correcting them right now. So the answer to your question is yes and no, because it's cited in so many other places that this also applies here, but then doesn't apply here, but does apply here, that now we're cleaning it up. Thank you. Yes, sir.
You, Mr. Mayor, town council members, I just have a brief question and a statement. I will give my statement followed by my question. In short, many of us as residents and citizens of Selma, proud citizens and residents, there has been a lot of verbal discussion, a lot of social media interaction because of the recent code enforcement letters or citations that have been sent out. In researching this matter further, it appears strongly that the code enforcements that have been sent out concerning the off-street parking in particular, with the codes being on the books for several years, many people not being aware and the codes not being openly enforced,
Mhm.
wouldn't it seem as though, in fairness, that we, the town council, your office, and the citizens work together in a partnership to have an opportunity to have been given public knowledge and education about this matter, or this issue, prior to the citations being sent out? Second question, with this causing such a lot of shock, commotion, shock, whatever, could we look at the possibility, could the council and yourself look at the possibility of giving a 90-day or moratorium that would allow opportunity for the town and the citizens to come together to be educated on this more clearly, and also to allow time for preparation to make adjustments as needed?
Great question. Is there more?
Yes, sir. There's a lot of mixed feelings about the whole situation. So, in short, could the council or will the council agree to tonight possibly to pause these potential fines? Will you open the dialogue to find a fair transition plan?
I understand your question. Thank you. We have done that tonight. We could have very easily sent out a bunch of fines related to all that stuff. And we looked and we were like, whoa, no way, no how. It has been very much noted that we've told code enforcement and staff, we're not fining for this right now because this is way too messy. And now you're all here. And now we're having a conversation. And I'll do you better than a 90-day moratorium. I imagine we're going to probably take a lot longer to give folks a chance to sort through all these things after we make a decision on how we're going to get it done. Excellent point.
Yes, so do you know exactly when that code was amended or changed or?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah, if you're looking back, I'll tell you if there was a lack of code enforcement at the time, or, you know, going through.
Well, I can answer the question about the lack of code enforcement at the time. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, because seven half is bad. At different times, of, you know, decades, whatever they go.
Let me be very straightforward with all of you. It is not lost on me that 9 years ago, this place was a mess. If anybody disagrees, you're kidding yourself. And you see, I disagree with that because you have a lot of other, and you're speaking out of turn, sir. You need to dial it back. If we could take this gentleman on out the building, please, if you don't mind.
I sure hope. They done that you out of office and dictatorship can go back into your.
Amen.
Yeah, he was a dictator for you. Pushing forward.
Good to see you, Ray.
Yes, good to see you. And I hope on the election day that we see him, like I say, we'll help him blow his car.
So let me go back to the conversation about where we are, where we've been, and why we're having these conversations. So Mr. Ray Moore here has shared his thoughts about Selma still being a mess. I think Coffee on Rayford's an absolutely beautiful shop. I think the Rayford Strip, the Rayford Street right now, and the downtown business section is looking absolutely amazing. I think we have become, quite frankly, the conversation in Johnston County about getting it right in a community. So I don't buy anything he has to say. With that being said, that's why we are sitting here in a room of citizens and stakeholders having a conversation about what is really going to affect you as we continue to raise the bar, because that's what we're doing in the town of Selma. Let's see, we're going to start on this side and then we're going to come around right here.
I was just curious as
to who was in charge of code enforcement? Is it still the custodian?
No,
The town of Selma custodian?
no.
What is her name?
We're not gonna share staff name in the
Or
middle of,
code enforcement officer?
we're not gonna share staff names in the middle of meetings. Please look it up. Who else do we have? So we'll have
Barnes was actually, or
you in the back
yeah,
there.
she was actually. the-
Could you please have a seat, ma'am?
That's as far as her experience.
Ma'am, can you please have a seat,
Just so
please?
y'all
I think used to.
That's a very key word, used to.
Yeah, I.
Ma'am, you, please take her out.
First and foremost, I want to say, I love the direction the town of Selma's going. There's a lot of growth. I moved here 8 years ago, and I love the direction it's going. But I was given a one-day notice to pick up tickets.
You can, come on, I'm sorry.
Yep, any questions you want?
I'm sorry. I was given a one-day notice to pick up pickets out of my front yard. I have a truck, no big deal. But I was working that day when I got the letter. So my question to you all is, I don't know much about the body of a town, but I'm learning a whole lot.
So wait a minute. We are still on off-street parking, but you're asking about a notice to pick up pickets.
Well, this applies to all of them, whether it's off-street parking, it's about ordinances in general.
So,
So my question to you all is, what kind of process are you all going through to make sure that this body here is not overreaching outside of your government responsibilities, and to ensure that there are federal, state, and constitutional violations that are not being violated?
town lawyer. So let me tell you a fun conversation we had about grass, and you can have a seat. A fun conversation we had about grass a long time ago. We had a lot of citizens come to us and say, we need you to do something about tall grass. And we actually had a meeting a lot like this because we had a lot of people that were very, very perturbed about tall grass. And town attorney did his due diligence, said, the best you can do in the state of North Carolina is you have to wait till the grass gets to 10 inches by state law. And then you have to give it 10 days before you can actually fine it. So you give them a warning at 10 inches, and then you have to wait 10 days by state law. So even today, I went outside just out of curiosity. I'm glad you asked that question. And took my yardstick out for not cutting my grass for a week and a half. Quite a bit of rain. It's not 10 inches. And that I was gobsmacked because it looks terrible. But after it gets to 10 inches, there are then 10 more days. So by statute, that is also what our ordinance says, and that's what we roll with. So when we do these ordinances, they go through planning, they go through a planning board for the most part if it's part of Chapter 17, and then your town attorney reviews it. Who do we have next?
So I know before you were talking about erosion and eroding dirt into the sewer system and that whole thing. What does the town do to ensure that the blockages are cleared out of the sewer system so we don't have the rainwater backing up? Because there are maintenance things that I know the town has to do, but what is it that the town's doing to ensure that those things aren't causing the blockage?
Over the last 4 years, we have gone gangbusters. No, is it 4 or 5 years? 4 years. We have gone gangbusters on stormwater. We have cleared every tributary related to Moccasin Creek significantly. We have worked with the Moccasin Creek District Board very closely. They have gotten some significant money recently to do some major work as well. We have torn up the corner of Webb Street and Oak Street to figure out why that stormwater system has gotten clogged up. We've identified places where pipes definitely need to be enlarged. We have pulled out a significant portion over there on Sharp and Dixie where we found the stormwater pipe was going through someone's yard under their house. Which again, back in the day, you could just do anything, right? Shouldn't have happened, but we had to straighten it out and open up that blockage significantly so that our area doesn't continue to turn into an absolute pool. And it's still not solved yet because we are still exploring. I think it was just a couple of weeks ago. What's that? Yeah, HMGP, which is money to even more deeply explore that, we're working on right now. So the last 4 years, we have been banging our head up against the wall trying to mitigate those circumstances that we're talking about.
So follow-up question on that, is there a town, cause me as being, I'm an ex-Corps engineer, US Army, do you have a preventative maintenance, scheduling that you do on that?
Building it as we speak. So with that comes stormwater AIA, which is called asset inventory, which we then map where work has been done, and then we put a timeline on when we circle back to that work again. So yes. Yes.
Sure. When you come in that shop, it's been growing out there for the longest. And the grass and stuff, when they cut that field right there, it flows out in the ditch side there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when it rains, it clogs that area up. I get out there with a raincoat boots, try to unclog it so the water can drain. But right there where my pop had the mailbox at 501, down that area right there, I noticed that the dirt had started separating there. So that pipe do run up under there.
Dogwood Circle?
Dogwood Drive.
Dogwood Drive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it do runs up under there, under the ground.
Do we know if we're approaching things on Dogwood yet?
So, found the end of that problem on, actually, that end Jones, where it runs into that ditch, that's where everybody goes that way. But, that is part of our, grant program that we apply for, and that's one of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And again, these are good questions, because I'm sure these have been questions that have been on a few people's folks for many, many, many years. We're trying to attack an elephant, eat an elephant one bite at a time. You had a question? Yes, sir.
Yes, I want to know, doing with the code, because I read all of them, I Googled them up, I read all of them. I want to know where the code, I live at 800 West Oak Street, and I got several cars, all of them run. I got some nice cars, all of them run. I want to know why does the code, what does the code specify that running cars with license tag, insurance fully covered, it's called red car or something. I got called red car. I got 2 BMW, 3 Lincoln, all that kind of stuff. And all of them real good. They're good car. Every one I run, every one I fully covered. But I got an $18,000 fine. But yes, $18,000 fine on the code for my cars, and all my cars run.
So this is an off-street parking conversation. So we can outline, I guess, look at, wait a minute, do you have documentation with you? Because usually it should show you on the code what it is.
Yeah, it got on the code, but it's
Oh, okay.
same thing over and over.
So, yeah, but again, it should tell you the section on the sheet of paper. So that would be the section that they're referencing.
Right, it's the same thing. It's no new code, no new, they're not addressing anything, they're addressing my car, you know where I live, they're addressing my
I believe so. So, again, on the actual sheet that you get from the town of Selma, when you get a violation, it does specify which piece of code that they are referencing. So, again, if there needs to be clarification on what code is being referenced, I think we can always have you come to the office and sit down with you. Planning staff is willing to look at it and say, this is what we're referencing, but it should be on the paper as well.
Yes, what's on the paper is,
But again, we can't parse through your individual case. That is where it should be. And again, if you want to come in and talk to staff and be like, hey, explain to me how this applies to what I have going on, that's a different conversation.
well, I came in down on the other
Sir, we can't parse through your particular individual piece right now. So again, reach out to staff and particularly planning department, because again, planning knows code backwards and forwards, and have them look at it, and again, it should be referenced directly on your sheet when you get a violation.
But let me say this, I went down there like you told me to when I saw you up there at the, police, say, and I talked to that young man there, but you gotta pay, the young man right there, you got to pay to talk to somebody in county.
Oh, no, that's to appeal. To chat with us, you don't necessarily have to pay, but to appeal something, yeah. If you are trying to appeal something, that is a different conversation. Now, if you were having a conversation about maybe a grace period appeal, was that any part of the conversation? Okay. But there are certain things, an appeal does come with, you have to pay to see a board, things like that. But just to ask a question is there's no charge to ask a question.
Yeah, so this goes back to I don't think all my questions were answered earlier. Who is making up the ordinances? This is a great example. You pulled one out. Great example.
Wait. So we are trying to concentrate around off-street parking, but you're asking who's making up the ordinances in general. Ordinances are built in a community over many years. The majority of our ordinances were reworked probably about 15 years ago by
Well, I'm
planning.
not concerned about 15 years ago. What I'm saying, I think you're missing my point. This is a great example.
Mhm.
The first topic, erosion. You've done all this data research. I'm saying, all in general, all of your ordinances, are they all done with the same data? Are they all, is there a purpose behind it? Or do we have some people sitting on a board somewhere saying, hey, I used to work in that HOA?
The answer is yes. Generally, what happens with building code, we look at what other communities have experienced. A lot of this code is duplicated across many communities because of what they've run into, what the problem is, and then this is how they fixed it. So yes, this code is, I mean, most of this code, there's nothing that is probably specific to the town of Selma at all.
Well, what I ran.
Wait, hold on, just a moment. Is there somebody talking in the back? Please quiet down, and then we talk one at a time.
So, I sent y'all 3 emails with some serious outdated state statutes in your ordinances. There's constitutional violations. There's, state codes that should not be in very broad language that would never hold up in court. So that's why I'm asking, what kind of background?
You're sharing your opinion, ma'am. If you give me just a moment, please.
Let me finish my question.
No, ma'am.
Yeah,
Stop.
I've asked it 3 times, you haven't answered it.
Please take her out.
I mean, what kind of people are sitting on the board making the ordinance? What kind of background do they have? It's a simple question. My next step is to go to the Department of Justice because you've ignored 3 of my emails with a constitutional violation. So expect a public records request in your email, and I'll hand deliver it to the town clerk because I've already filed a complaint with the auditor's office as well.
Have a good one. Thank you. Next question. Yes, ma'am.
With all the orders going on, I was asking, like, when I stay somewhere, when we sign up for HOA, in my community, we sign up, you gotta Google, like, whether you wanna stay here or not, you got to sign, like, here's the rules.
Mm-hmm.
If you really, we've been in Selma, I've been in Selma for 40 years. And I love Selma, I give back and everything. So, when you buy a property, you already know what you're getting yourself into. But some of these properties were already bought, and nobody signed up. Like, even when you go to a different, you get a new community, they'll let you know, these are the rules, and if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. But the people already bought you. My mom already bought you.
So I understand your question, and we've actually had some internal conversation about what we can, what we should put in kind of a welcome packet for people that are new to the community. But also, our ordinances are always been there on their own website, and you can look them up through Municode. They're all there. So, for instance, Mr. Harry James, a statement he made stuck in my head forever. He asked a question in one of our meetings. He said, "Did you know that if you pull into the street and then drive down the center turning lane on a highway, that that's illegal and the police can pull you over. And everybody's like, and some were like yes, and some were like no. And they're like, did anybody send you a rule book about that? It's in the driver's ed book, but there were some people that said no. Our code is in the code book. You just haven't read it because it's way too much to read, quite frankly, and I know that. So with that being said, we've tried to figure out, hey, what are the pieces that maybe we do need to kind of highlight and put in a little packet and say, hey, here's the simple. But when you start doing that, we're like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And if you start trying to distill down a municipality's code, it gets rough. But again, I would also say that when we do make changes to code, we have public hearings every single time. And we then discuss that, and then you have opportunity to make a comment about that change at that public hearing. We've changed code in the last 5 years 15 times or so. There's a reason why these public meetings are held. There's a reason why we have to have public hearings for certain things, because that is the opportunity for everybody to be aware and give you input.
And thank y'all for giving us the chance to speak and communication. This day and age is everything. The more communication we have, the more everybody knows what's going on. So I would suggest it'd be nice if we could get a bigger building or area where we could have more citizens. I know several citizens said they didn't want to come because they wouldn't be that standing room.
So when we actually fill up this building, we can saunter over to the Civic Center any old time. I have heard, half your folks that show up on Facebook with interesting comments won't come to the room. So if we do have an occasion where people have to pile in the room, we'll make provisions. We've had a couple of meetings where the rooms were full. We've had meetings in the Civic Center. We're going to try to hear everybody if you understand that you have to be respectful while having a conversation with your elected officials. Any other questions related to off-street parking?
Know where the River Road, that's a state maintained road.
Yes, I do. Yes, sir.
Okay.
State maintained road.
And you know, they got a slant around
Okay.
it. When it rains, wash.
Yeah, and you're talking about the erosion over there as well. Yes, sir. I'll be very straightforward with you about our struggle with state maintained roads right now. NCDOT is wonderful.
We got the state out there, they put gravel out there.
Mm-hmm. NCDOT is wonderful, and they have their hands full. And again, the idea that they came out and said, hey, we'll try to help you the best we can, but they know that they have to do some major adjustments to what we have going on River Road right now, what we have going on Oak Street, what we have going on Anderson. Just about every state road you see through the town of Selma right now, NCDOT already has on the books to change it. Which ones now? Somebody had a question?
What about streets in Selma,
You talk about our local streets.
our local streets? They need fixed.
Are you talking about paving local streets?
Yeah.
So
There's holes all
let me dial back that conversation just a moment. We'll circle back to that in a moment. But again, when it comes to the state roads, there are, I think we've got the end of next year, they're working on Buffalo Road. You've got the middle of the year after that working on 301. The state's got their hands full, and I'm glad they were able to come out and help you out to at least make that a little bit better, but we all know it's probably not perfect. We had a question right behind?
Yes.
Yes.
I think a lot of the reason that the room is packed today is because of, I can't remember who said, but someone mentioned about, the driveways having to be gravelled. On the violation notices that everyone received, I'm assuming we were given 10 days to correct that. Is that right? 10 days to correct it. So someone asked the question, are they gonna, is it really 10 days? Or are you gonna give these folks a grace period? $1,000, $1,200 for gravel is a lot of money for a lot of people, especially people that.
To answer your question, the answer is yes. And that is part of that conversation today and part of the conversation on Thursday.
Okay, thank
When we're talking about the roads needing paving in Selma, I don't know if anybody's heard this before, but we did do an extensive pavement condition study last year. We now have a plan, and then we started paving last year as well. We've got a plan to pave over the next 5 years to address the roads that scientifically are the worst, fix them up, get them caught up with the best roads, and then go back and circle back to the best roads and maintain them that way. So we are addressing the need to improve our roads, but to give you a reminder, our roads are much better. They're probably what, top 60% or so of roads. We're probably mid-range as far as the condition of our roads, but we certainly want it perfect. So we agree we need to do some work on our roads. All right. Anybody else on off-street parking?
It's not off-street parking. Campground Road was dug up by a contractor. Now what you're saying is it's puddling, it's eroding to the side of the road. Let's bring that contractor back and fix that road properly.
Oh, I agree. And let's touch base on that real quick. We have had some serious back and forth with contractors left and right who have come into town. We had a contractor recently right in the middle of town who tried to sneak in the middle of the day, not say anything to anybody, and just start digging up pipes everywhere. And thankfully, our staff ran over and be like, who are you? What are you doing? And you're going to have to put this back the way you found it. Because if we hadn't said anything to them, unfortunately, I think as we all saw when we had Lumos come through, we had AT&T come through. We've had a lot of contractors come through. By the laws of right-of-ways, once these folks get the permit to come in and do their thing, it's hard for us to keep a thumb on it. So we agree. We definitely, but with that being said, if you see something, say something, because contractors can't sneak in without really giving us full notice and start working in the right-of-ways no matter what.
This has been going on for months. They've been over there. They're gone now.
Mm-hmm.
It's puddling and it's a bumpy road.
Do you know who the contractor was?
No, I don't recall.
So again, when we see something, say something, but can we attempt to circle back and figure out what's going on over there?
That's a DOT road, and we can report that issue on a DOT website.
Very cool. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on from off-street parking. But what we will do is, actually, let me ask you this. Is there anybody in this room who thinks we should just actually leave it as you can park on dirt in your yard?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I mean, I'm serious. Raise your hand. Everybody does think we should just be able to leave it as you should be able to park on dirt in your yard. Understandable. Just want to get the temperature. Absolutely. Yeah.
Doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, I get it. All right.
I pay taxes on it. I pay taxes on it.
What's that?
I pay taxes on it.
Exactly.
That is an interesting statement. So let's ask another question then, because I guess if we're talking about what we pay taxes on. So if a house burns down next to you, should we allow the property owner just to leave the house burned up next to your house?
No.
Why not?
You gotta get in.
Yeah, then good. Also damage, you know, cause someone get hurt, stuff like that.
Okay. We'll leave it at that. All right. Next question. Couple of little notes. We need to check on the language about people with cars parked on the street with fluid coming out of them. Let's make sure we can tighten up on that. We've had a odd occurrence of oil spills in the middle of the street because people are working on the cars. Balloon release ordinance. We need language to say no more balloon releases in the town of Selma. That's interesting. We think that's funny. Why do we think that's funny?
What is it? Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, can you explain what the ordinance is and why?
We don't have an ordinance yet.
The helium balloons go up and hit our power lines and knocks your power out.
And beyond that, then they go up into who knows where and they land somewhere. Nature, they choke out animals, they do a lot of things. Yes, ma'am.
I understand what you're saying, but usually if we release balloons, it's for memorial. It's for a loved one. It has a meaning. It's not for spite, it's not to cause problems.
Understandable. Very understandable.
But it ends up causing problems.
Well, I don't do it either, but
Yes, ma'am.
So can you give me the statistics of how many balloons have gone up and knocked out power lines because a balloon went up and hit it? Because I can tell you, when I got married on Fort Hood, I released a whole bunch of balloons and I didn't turn off any light in Fort Hood. So, and I think we probably released about 60 or 70 balloons. And so is there some statistics out there? Is there some statistics on that when the balloon popped, a goose from Canada swallowed it and died? I mean,
That's a good point,
because I want
because
to understand the facts behind the reasoning behind the statute, because if it's just hearsay, then I don't know.
it's a big
Well,
deal.
See, I'm not saying that I'm against releasing it. I'm just saying you gotta be wise to know the environment around you.
Correct.
So you will be out in an open field or somewhere.
Agreed. So what is the ordinance that you're trying to put together about releasing balloons? Like, it cannot be released within 20 feet of a power line?
It would probably be within the town city limits, just to keep it simple. Just like, the fireworks conversation. Just to keep it simple, can't do it in the town limits of Selma.
And with that balloon thing, you might wanna add in the, lanterns, ones you like, make those
Ah.
too. I wanna put that, that's part of the balloon.
Lanterns.
Silly question for me. We're not talking about like if a kid accidentally loses a balloon.
No, we're talking about the party that we were talking about where you have something big and you're like, balloon release. No, somebody blows up a balloon.
'Cause I haven't seen a balloon release.
We are not talking about that. No. All right, let's see what else we got. Wouldn't that be something?
And quick question, who would enforce that? I'm like,
So,
that's a legit.
no, seriously.
Somebody releasing
The
balloons.
same way we enforce fireworks. You see them go up, police would go to the area where it's happening, and then you see this crowd of people watching balloons.
Well, I mean, but who's gonna call that in?
Wait, no, seriously. I can name 13 people off the top of my head right now, which is why we're having this conversation.
My telephone's off right now, but I would suggest just to look that up.
Yeah,
It's
it does get serious.
it's a sad commentary about balloon releases. For people who don't know anything about it, it would probably be very interesting to look at because there are aspects about.
So the
While you
Fire-
think-
I'm sorry,
while
go
you
ahead.
think. Just one more statement and I'll stop on. The last one I know we had downtown was at the Rudy Theater out front and it took out majority of that end of the town. Just-
So it has happened in town.
oh, it's happened. So oh, you asked if it's actually happened?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I thought you were being facetious. No, it's happened.
Legit asking that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I apologize. It has happened. Fireworks fine. Is that a civil penalty? Do we know off the top of the head? Okay, very good. Civil penalty for fireworks, shooting fireworks in town. Does anybody have questions on why you can't shoot fireworks in town? Yes, sir.
Is there any way that we can maybe change the wording of fireworks? Because the way that it's written is it's all fireworks. That's sprinklers, poppers, fountains, literally anything.
It's all of them, yes.
How can I not have sprinklers? There's sprinklers.
I was gonna say, we want sprinklers.
Is there any way that we can be allowed?
The problem is that the wiggle room that you would give, as we saw in Dunn, you kill people in a denser area. That's why the county says it's cool, and I think even the county's probably looking at specifying how much density in the county is considered where you can have fireworks. In an area this dense, in your neighborhood, way too dense. Way too
So,
dense.
if I'm not allowed to have fireworks. Can the town of Selma have fireworks?
Yes, because there are safety pieces that are involved. You have to be licensed to shoot fireworks. All types of things are involved with shooting fireworks in urban areas. So, for instance, you can't go around shooting fireworks in New York City, but they sure are going to put on a show for you at New Year's.
But they're also allowed to have sparklers.
I'm not sure about the rules and regulations of.
I know that they aren't allowed to have sparklers in the middle of.
If you on New Year's Eve.
No. For those celebrations, they'll say you can have sparklers at Times Square roped off in an area. And then you have safety things in place that close off an entire area where you can have them. You can't be at your house with a sparkler. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to tell you how well they enforce it, but
So then is there any way that we can maybe put a bigger budget on the Selma fireworks show for next year?
which one?
That's supposed to happen this year?
Yeah.
You talk about the one on the 4th or the one at the,
In
I don't know
town,
what happened. And that's it, so.
which town did you go to?
Selma, this one.
so we had a large fireworks show that was at Old North State Food Hall on June 30th.
The All-American Festival.
And so then on July 4th, we have a smaller one for in town, but you also have to bear in mind that there are several other communities having them on July 4th as well. So what we try to do is our big shows between the towns in Johnston County, we can try to spread them out because there are a lot of people that try to catch every big show. And we've been very mindful of that. That's been a conversation in Johnston County for a long time. And then we just recently added, 2 years ago? The second show for the downtown. Now, your request is, hey, let's have a bigger downtown show on the 4th?
Yes.
And last year it was bigger.
It was
Yeah.
big.
It was because, again, the cost of fireworks, we spent the same amount of money, cost of fireworks went up. So,
But we had 2 shows last year too, didn't we? We
Yes.
had one in Ormond,
that was that bigger fireworks show that happened at Old North State Food Hall
right,
this year.
but last year, the one we had downtown was actually pretty decent size.
Because the cost of fireworks went up this year, tariffs, you know how that works.
Yes, I do.
Same amount we spent,
I have coffee, I understand.
you know it, same amount we spent made for a smaller show. And we'd already budgeted a certain amount, so the amount of fireworks we could get was prohibitive. So we do, seriously, if we want to get back to that show we had year before last, we're going to spend more money. We've already budgeted. That might be hard to do. But let's make a very clear note that that is a request. Very clear note. Very cool. All right.
Can I throw in a comment?
Yes, sir.
On the fireworks, it depends on where you're at. If you're downtown, we only allow, tell me if I'm wrong, you only can go so high with fireworks.
Yeah. So what they're mentioning is that particularly in the downtown area, you can only have such a big firework as compared to where we have it on those more open fields like Ormond Plaza or Old North State Food Hall. We are allowed to have much larger fireworks in those areas.
They
But
could
the
go-
ones that we had last year and at Christmas time were bigger than what we had this year.
Yes, because of the price.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Yep, yep, yep. All right,
Town
let's,
expected to drive to the food hall to see the fireworks?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Is the town expected to drive to the food hall to be able to see the fireworks? Because we can't see them if they're at the food hall from in town.
Wait, you do know there's 2 shows, right?
You said the ones here only go so high, they barely clear the tree lines.
So, what we're saying is you have to have a very open area to shoot fireworks. And no matter what, that open area that we're talking about, you're going to have to drive to.
Like the elementary school.
No, we can't shoot elementary school. Yeah, we don't get to just pick and choose shooting fireworks wherever. That is not how that works. So there are particular areas we can shoot fireworks, and then once we get those areas, we use them, and they're usually someplace you're probably gonna have to drive to if you live in this area. Yeah. Language. Chip, this is for you, bud. For recouping legal fees incurred by the town of Selma chasing code enforcement complaints and abatement fees. Do we have that in our ordinances now, and is that something we can add?
We cannot add it,
Mhm.
it's specific as the statutes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go to predominantly chapter 6, it gives all the reasons you can have attorney fees
Mm-hmm.
in ordinances or laws. The only way you can remotely do it may be through some nuisance abatement under chapter 19
Mm-hmm.
or a code demolition type. And we've done that historically.
Right.
But other than that, I don't think the law's gonna allow unless they change the law. Because it's, North Carolina follows what's called the prevailing party rule a lot of times, but usually each side pays their own fees.
Right. Very cool. So that conversation is saying that if you do have, for folks that have neighbors where you're looking at be like, hey, why do they keep doing this? We keep adding fines to them. If we have to take them to court, bear in mind that is something that comes out of taxpayer dollars. So we have to be very graceful and considerate of using taxpayer dollars for certain things as we're chasing code enforcement fines, things like that. So for the folks out there, they're asking, why do these things go on so long? Why can't we clean this up? Why can't we clean that up? With the amount of things that we do have to clean up, we do have to be very careful about how we chase after particularly habitual code enforcement violators. Can we all, staff, Chip, also look into the conversation about special assessments for sidewalks? I think that's chapter 14, article 3. We do need to take a close look again as we start improving our sidewalks and what we've got going on. Then even see if anybody is interested in using special assessments for sidewalks, and B, circle back to our population and have a conversation if that's something we're all interested in as well. Okay? Special assessments for sidewalk means that if you don't like the sidewalk that's in front of your house and your neighbors don't like the sidewalk that's in front of their house, you can put together a petition and ask the town of Selma to actually make a special assessment for you to where they bill you over time for the repair of the sidewalk. That's kind of what I said. I was like, I'm not sure anybody's gonna like that. But at the same time, we do have certain folks that do have sidewalks, certain folks don't have sidewalks. Where does the responsibility lie when we do have sidewalks? We had a question in the back.
Yeah, you stated an ordinance that said it makes your neighbor uncomfortable, you can't do that?
No, I did not state an ordinance about making your neighbors comfortable.
Recorded it, it's recorded in this room.
Let me make sure I clear. What I said was generally if it makes your neighbor uncomfortable, it's probably something we shouldn't be doing in the town of Selma.
It's literally word for word, but when you say that, does that mean that the sidewalk, if it makes a neighbor uncomfortable, you just remove it, not worry about paying fine? I was wondering if it makes.
Paying what fine are we?
If your neighbor is uncomfortable, let you dress as a deer.
Wait, you said a fine for a sidewalk. What fine are we talking about?
I'm just saying, you said something about paying something, somebody got to pay this, but if you don't want sidewalk there, it's removed, right?
The conversation was about a special assessment.
Right, but if the sidewalk, like if your neighbor and you decide you don't want sidewalks, it bothers you.
You would have to request a special assessment be assessed to you. That would be, you would, as a homeowner would say, hey, I want you to charge us to fix this portion of the
But there is no
sidewalk.
ordinance in Selma that if something you do in your property makes your neighbor uncomfortable, you can't do that. That's no such thing. You stated it, word for word. You said we have an ordinance. You said it had a flowery speech. You said we have an ordinance in Selma. I can play it for you if you like. You go on the phone?
No thanks. Please have a seat. Let's see. We are working on a through truck ordinance amendment. Thank you. We do, I think, need to polish up our language on temporary housing and folks living on tents or living in tents on properties. We do have some of that we need to look at. Language on temporary tents as carports. Temporary tents as carports. We do need to polish up storage of construction materials and tools and machinery particularly in yards, particularly outside. We do need to polish that up. And is there any appetite for having a conversation to limiting the number of cars on a property?
Can't do it. It makes your neighbor uncomfortable, you can't do it. There it goes. I'll walk.
So what he did was he missed the point of the statement because he played a snippet. What we were saying was we were talking about certain ordinances. Our books say if it makes it uncomfortable, you can't do it. So like noise ordinances, it says if it makes your neighbor uncomfortable, you can't do this, this, and this. But he missed that part. You know how that goes. I know. So we did not have an appetite for limiting the number. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I just have a question in regards to what you just said about that ordinance. Forgive my brain fog. So. I'll come back, sorry.
You talking about the noise ordinance?
Question is, sorry.
Yeah.
Big brain fog. So how does code enforcement necessarily know if something is making my neighbor uncomfortable or not?
If your neighbor calls.
So every violation that I've received has been because of a neighbor calling?
Oh, no. There are ordinances well beyond noise ordinances, things like that, about making your neighbor uncomfortable. I mean, there's a lot of things. That off-street parking conversation and erosion, things like that, has nothing to do with making your neighbor uncomfortable at all.
Gotcha.
Lots of laws and things like that have nothing to do with making your neighbor uncomfortable.
So when, how many warnings, I guess, would constitute a fine for a neighbor making a phone call about me?
So let's put that noise ordinance in place, or use that noise ordinance as you doing something in your backyard that is causing just a constant noise, constant something. If your neighbor calls and says, look, this has been going on for a while now, can we do something about it? PD's gonna stop by and they're gonna say, hey, these folks don't like this, your neighbor's very uncomfortable with this, can we stop doing it? That's what that boils down to. So one of those uncomfortable things means your neighbor called and then we came out and the police see if there's anything they can actually do about it. Absolutely.
So is that always the case then for like a neighbor complaint versus something that the code enforcement is specifically viewing? That if I'm asking in regard to the police visit.
I mean, if somebody complains about it, we'll look into it no matter what. Now, there are often times where the police comes out, somebody's complained about something, and they're like, there's nothing doing here, we can't do anything about this. But if somebody complains about it, generally a police officer will come by to take a look at it. Yes.
Well, I think what her point is like, say for instance, your neighbor, you had 4 cars in your yard, and a neighbor calls the town about your 4 cars in your yard, because they don't like the sight of the 4 cars in your yard. And then that's when code would get involved, right?
That's a very rare
I
instance.
know, I'm just using that as an example.
I can't
I don't
even-
even know if that's even an example.
I don't think there's been, I can't say that any of our population has actually called about, I think, things of that nature, like somebody not liking something in their yard.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a
I'm
rare
just saying-
case.
I'm just saying that could be, you know.
I understand the question, but that is, I think that's a very rare case. And don't get me wrong, we have had folks that have asked questions that say, hey, can people do this? Can people do this? Can people do this? Generally, those aren't things where we run over and like, let's encode everything and get a look at. Code enforcement runs a pattern through town, and they stick to that pattern. We aren't trying to go out of our way to pick places. They run a pretty constant pattern through town, because I don't think it's wise to respond to everybody saying, I don't like the way this looks in somebody's yard. We'd have a lot of running around to do if that was the case. Yes.
The noise ordinance, is there, I have not looked into that, is there a particular time that is quiet time?
So we don't have quiet time, but it does say that it's, more strictly enforced through certain hours. I can't think of the time off the top of my head, but it does really clearly state, hey, between these hours, be really careful about being noisy.
My belief is 10 o'clock.
I think you might be right, but I'm not 100% sure.
What time does the civic center?
That is on the list at the bottom. Thank you. We have actually had, in fact, Mayor Pro Tem Scarborough and I visited the Civic Center the other night, and so we might need to put some tighter regulation on how noisy that thing can get, because it's in the middle of a residential neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And that bass, that bass gets serious.
Directly next door.
We stood out across the street and we were gobsmacked. So that is on the list at the bottom here to address that as part of our policy as far as renting the Civic Center and, quite frankly, our policy in general. Yes.
I'm not really sure where to answer this, but I just had a question. Is it possible to, when there's a specific violation on a multi-unit residence or commercial building, for code enforcement to be specific on who the tenant that violation belongs to? Because right now it's for the entire parcel,
Mm-hmm.
and there's multiple people within that parcel, and then the landlord obviously doesn't know who that belongs to, so then it's like everyone's getting punished for something that is one person's. And in the pictures that are being sent are very vague, like the entire back of the building.
Mm-hmm.
And the violation is clearly for one person. Is it possible for that to be like the tenant on the right, or the tenant like?
Unfortunately, the workload that would add to us, considering how a lot of these buildings are cut up, not just buildings, but duplexes and the like, we have actually attempted to address it, and it's about impossible. Not unless we added a whole nother human being to the mix, and then that gets cost prohibitive. So it is very hard to manage, particularly when it comes to tenants, because we have lots of times where a tenant that has violated something is gone before the letter even gets to the house. I mean, regularly. And at the end of the day, for us, our conversation is with the landlord and the town of Selma. The landlord then has the conversation with their business and their tenants. Yes, ma'am.
I've actually received a few notices, violation notices, that one in particular was a violation for 508 North Sharp Street. But the photo of the house was 508 Sellers.
Ah.
The two pieces are taxed as one parcel, but does the code enforcement officer not know what street they're on?
We only go by
The particular.
what we go by is what is listed on GIS. So the information that is listed on GIS that is attached to that parcel is what we go by for the addressing of the letters, the information related to the letters.
I understand. I feel like there's a little gray area there.
What I would say is, and we've had, and I'll mention this to everybody while we're talking about it tonight, go and look what information Johnston County has for your property, because there's a lot of folks that have an address, mailing address listed for their properties that they might not have seen in ages. But we are going to mail that letter to that mailing address that's connected to GIS. So I would suggest polishing up that information that's in GIS related to your properties to make sure you're getting all of that stuff that you're looking for related to your properties to the proper location. It is impossible for the town to know every individual situation related to properties. We have to go by the very factual information that is listed with Johnston County and the tax office.
So the address isn't factual. The actual address, though, isn't factual.
So when you say those parcels are together, what happens is the address of the parcel is listed by GIS. So that parcel might span across 2 streets, might have multiple properties on it, but we only look at the entire parcel as a whole.
I have a question on the code enforcement call. It do not approach.
Actually, it says don't approach, which I hate. We're going to change that.
Now, it doesn't say that on the police call. It doesn't say it on the fire chief's call. All of these people are paid.
So the answer, the answer why is because if you approach our police officers and act foolish, you know how that goes. Firefighters, it's very rare that you run up to a firefighter because you're mad about something. Just a fact.
Well, I would think,
We have had to tighten up rules on how you can talk to our customer service folks at the finance window because people come in there upset oftentimes. We put them behind glass. You can't come up to our code enforcement because generally you're going to be upset about something you got going on, and we're not going to put our employees in that situation to have to chit chat with you because you got a letter. What else?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
We've been talking all tonight about fine. Some people getting fined, some people don't are not getting fined. What's the amount of fines that's been imposed since February?
I have no idea off the top of my head. Probably, I mean, we're probably,
Very easy to track.
yeah, we track it, but we just don't have the information on hand. I mean, we're probably multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Since
Said February. Yes.
So are the violations broad? Are these codes for everyone,
They're super broad.
even for you sitting up there in the front?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Super broad.
How long does it take for a public records request to be processed?
Depends on the request. But again, the fines are super broad, and the range of what they are super broad. And I know that because the range of people that I've spoken to about the letters they've gotten. Quite a few. And different reasons. We went through a period where sanitation was the top of everybody's mind, wasn't it? Trash cans. We had a meeting just like this. And so what tells me is we have a different group concerned about trash cans versus off-street parking, which is interesting. But we had a different crowd of folks, very different crowd of folks that were in here talking about trash cans. And that range of fines and conversation was very different from this, but it was all over this town. And we did give a grace period for sanitation, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we gave a grace period for sanitation because, again, things that we hadn't looked at in ever, we knew that it was a significant change and that people were going to need time to adjust to it. Yes, ma'am. No, you can say it. You're fine.
So what was the grace period that was given for the sanitation? Because I actually got a fine in the middle, and it had a picture of somebody with council.
Yeah, so if that's the case, you definitely need to send an email and get in touch with staff. Look, walk into finance and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Yeah, but that grace period was, we're going a year ago now, right? That was like a year ago. So that was different. But if it is truly something where it's clear that that's not your property, that's not your yard, that's not your thing, you just need to bring it to somebody's attention. Walk into finance and show the ladies, and they'll usually get in touch with somebody. Okay?
Okay, so quick question on that. So like, let's say for instance, somebody gets a violation and for her instance, it was the wrong address, wrong person. Does she have to, where's the fine line between going and asking and saying, hey, this is the wrong address, or hey, I have to take this in front of the board to appeal it because it's the wrong address?
What we have done, well, let me answer the question about how that works.
Okay.
What we have done is if somebody walks in with that, somebody at finance takes it in and they send it to code enforcement. Code enforcement looks at it and is like, ooh, this is a mistake. Sends it to our town manager. And our town manager goes, ooh, this is a mistake. And they take care of it. Because common sense is common sense. If it's not your house, we've made a mistake. And it's going to happen. So yeah, that gets taken care of real quick. I mean, everybody can look at the picture and be like, yeah, that's definitely not Bennett Drive. That is definitely Dogwood Drive. We need to take care of that.
Okay, so then if it's not, and you have to go before the board, and it's the Board of Appearances, right? Or what
Board of Adjustment.
Board of Adjustments. Then you have to pay a $500 fee to go to that, right? So if you're if your violation is like, let's say $200, and you're wanting to appeal it because if you're not in violation, what you think you're not in violation, you pay the extra $500. Do you get that back if you win?
If you're right, yeah, you do get it.
Okay.
Everybody looks over like, oh, you're right, and also you pay this thing. you get this back as well.
Okay.
If the Board of Adjustment says we've made a mistake, we clean up the mistake
And on the Board of Adjustments, do they meet once a month? Do they meet twice a month?
quarterly.
Do they, quarterly? So, okay, so how's that work when, if it's, let's say, if it's quarterly, that means January through March, you have one meeting, correct? Let's say you happen to get the violation at the end of January, they won't meet until the next quarter. That's 3+ months of continuous fines building on that.
The fine shouldn't be continuous. I mean, no matter what it is, the expectation would be it's either you look at it and if there's something off, you straighten it out, or if there was nothing wrong. If the code enforcement officer comes by and sees the same thing not wrong and keeps tagging it, we'll have to have a different conversation.
But if you're not paying that fine at that time that you got the violation, then it's gonna keep reoccurring a fee to that. Correct.
No, once you get a fine, it's just one fine. There's no late fee. There's no additions added to any code enforcement. So what happens is if they go back and the same violation is there, you get another fine for that violation being there. But if you're saying it's plainly that there's no violation there and they keep tagging it over a period of time every 10 days, I have never seen an instance where a code enforcement officer missed something wide left and then kept tagging somebody for it. So if that, I'm not, again, I haven't looked that deep into that to see where a code enforcement officer missed something wide left. So we'll look at your case purely. But again, if that is the case, then again, you're gonna have to wait for the Board of Adjustment, and then we see if we get it cleaned up. And that's depending. You could be waiting 90 days. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the code enforcement lady is the lady in the civil car, right?
Not as of recently, but what's up?
Okay, so I don't think I saw do not approach her, but I tried to talk to her about my jacket.
And she's been instructed you don't have conversations with anybody.
So I guess she's had words with a family member of mine that she works with. And she sent me a picture of my family member's trash can and find it to my address. Like, I feel like she's nitpicking us.
So wait a minute, you believe
I
that
believe that
our
she-
code enforcement officer was nitpicking your property?
Because of an incident that she had with my sister. My sister works for the city. Yes.
So when did this happen?
It's been a couple of weeks now. It's been about 4 weeks.
Have you brought it to anybody's attention?
I let my sister handle it because she's, more easygoing than I am. And I'm being fine for it, so.
Has your sister brought it to anybody's attention?
She did say that she said something. I don't know what happened, but she just told me not to go up there, so I didn't. Yeah.
You reasonably should certainly share this with higher staff.
Yes, and that's kind of my follow-up question, like, where do I go to get in touch with, like, people above certain people, or?
You walk into that finance building, those folks at the window are to take your information in and send it to the appropriate folks.
Okay.
Yeah. But don't get me wrong, and somebody mentioned that I heard they don't call you back. What happens is we take in, I guess, loads and loads of voicemails, staff looks through them, and if there's nothing to what the question is, you're not always going to get a response. Now, don't get me wrong, we also get on the order of hundreds of voicemails, and we also get hundreds and hundreds of pieces of paperwork. And we're also a town of 7,300 people, about 6.2 square miles. We only have a staff of about 96 people right now. We're going to go through the processes slowly. It's government. But if you have something legitimate, we do attempt our best to circle back to you. Sometimes when folks have even gotten in touch with me and they've even had stuff that was absolutely not legitimate, and they definitely did something wrong, I'll still call them and be like, this is definitely a picture of you doing something wrong. This is how you correct it. We are not going out of our way to hunt folks down, collect fines. In fact, we've been incredibly forgiving now for 2 years about code enforcement. But let's be honest, we've probably been going through about 20 some years of not doing anything in the town of Selma. It showed. We're trying to walk a fine line of how we get cleaned up to a proper place for what is here and what is coming. Let me get to the next thing on the list. We did mention storage of boats and RVs. They do run concurrent with the conversation about parking cars, but we'll look at polishing that language as well. There are some streets that are incredibly narrow where we're having discussions about limiting parking on both sides of the street. Some of those areas off of Lizzie particularly come to mind. So that might be coming down the pipe when you're talking about your White Streets, Ray Streets, that type of thing, off of Lizzie particularly. We've noted that if people park on both sides of the street, it'll be absolutely impossible for a maintenance truck, trash truck, and the like to go through there. So that conversation we'll take a look at, circle back to discussing on Thursday as well. And then there was a request to changing the language related to trash bins being stored in front of the house and beside the house. So we'll take a look at the language and see if we are comfortable with it or want to make any adjustments to that language as well. The Civic Center, again, we are going to look at tightening up our policy as far as renting the Civic Center and the amount of noise coming out of it. If I was somebody living across the street behind the Civic Center, next to the Civic Center, I get it. It's a lot of bass. I think that covers the list. Do we have anything else, Council?
Just for example, the Rudy Theater also has live music, and you don't hear it on the outside either.
There are ways to take care of that.
Yep. I have one more thing I want to ask the citizens. Your trash cans has numbers on them. Those numbers are assigned to you. So if somebody switches trash cans on you, you can also track that down as well.
That is true. Do we have any other random questions?
I have a question about the fines, and you said it was a grace period about the trash cans and all that. So, and I know they're saying that she, whoever is riding around looking. So we have been in our house 15 years, same chairs been on the porch. We got hit several times because she said it was inside furniture on the porch. We were doing some spring cleaning, so we had a rack outside that we had some stuff that had to lay out to dry. We got hit on that. We didn't have our trash cans. We had some benches and a little fire pit and sitting there, and you can see the fire pit. And it was a whole lot of stuff. So total, we ended up with $2,800 in fines that we had to pay. And my mother, like, we've spoken to you, we've called downtown, and I mean, I paid the money now because I had to, because if not, my landlord was gonna take me to court because they were coming in. And I'm like, what is it that all of a sudden that, because it's never been a problem. And those chairs have been on that porch the whole 10 years. We've been in the house for 15, 16 years. So all that was there. We got hit on that, and then in all the notices, it's got the pictures of the porch. So my mother has all her flowers, like, so we can't have flowers outside. We have outdoor tables outside. There's glass top outdoor tables outside. There's a planter bench. All that stuff is outside stuff.
So I can't necessarily get deep comments again on your individual case here, but did they not list out, same question, what the statutes were?
It was the statute, and it was it was saying that it was indoor furniture outside, but that wasn't indoor furniture.
Okay. So again, if you do have something where you're like, this is a swing and a miss, my suggestion always is walk into the finance building, bring the paper, show it to them. They scan that stuff, escalate it up, somebody looks at it, and again, if somebody says, this is a nothing burger, this is definitely part of the ordinance, there's a good chance you just won't get a response. But if somebody sees something and says, oh yeah, this is a swing and a miss, it's addressed. Again, I can't pinpoint your individual case. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but I would suggest taking that paper into the finance office and saying, hey, can you send this to somebody to make sure we didn't miss something?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Like the young lady who there, if I was in her place and I received it for a trash can that it was not even my trash can, my can, and the picture showed that, I could go to the finance officer, show them that.
Not the finance officer, the customer service. Yeah, customer service.
Go there.
Yeah.
And then y'all would send it wherever to look at that, and you could see that she is correct.
Yeah.
That it was given in error.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It cannot, it can just stop there and y'all send a letter out saying this was made up.
What happens is, yes, we circle back and we say, yeah, we made a mistake.
But I mean, people,
Oh, yeah.
without having to pay a fine or think you're gonna be in big trouble and have all this stuff.
That happens fairly regularly. That is like, yeah, this was off. Sorry.
But do you send a letter to these people saying, so they know?
Generally, they get a direct phone call.
Okay, well, some people.
Yeah. Yeah, generally they get a direct phone call saying, yeah, there's a swing and miss, sorry about that. But again, customer service folks have been fantastic at escalating that stuff up quickly. People bring stuff to the window, they explain what their concern is, they send it up. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask the question again. So let me understand this, because you just kind of gave another example where there's a fine line on the violation. So is it best if you feel like that the violation that you've received to go to the customer service first before going to the Board of Adjustment? If you feel like you're in the wrong?
Let me make sure that I'm very clear,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of people doing that sanitation.
That's a very gray area right there.
There were a lot of people with that sanitation conversation which got a letter. They read it, they knew they were in the wrong, and they just said, I don't like it. They knew they shouldn't have come up and said this was a mistake. If you truly think a mistake has been made, bring customer service. I mean, that is the people pretend to not understand what we're saying, but they often do. And they won't bother our staff trying to play games, quite frankly. So we have no concerns. If somebody sees, hey, this is in my trash can, this is in my yard.
Right, but like, for instance, this lady back here who had, her furniture was clearly outdoor furniture, but they were claiming.
If it's clearly outdoor furniture and she believes it's clearly outdoor furniture, it's the same thing. Bring it, show it, because you believe this is truly, you don't understand what you're looking at. But again, if we're looking at it like, no, that's indoor furniture. That's the end of the conversation.
And then she could take it to the Board of Adjustment.
And then, yes, if you're like, really, this, I don't believe, then you can take it to the Board of Adjustment, absolutely.
I'm
What else?
just getting clarification on that.
Yeah. What else we got? Yes, sir.
What is the time limit a vehicle can park on the side of the road in the wrong direction?
0 seconds. So, in fact, ooh, wow. What wonderful timing. Let me read you an email that I got today, and this is kind of a regular conversation that happens in our lives as council members. There it is. I'm not going to mention what the name is, but it says, is it truly necessary to patrol ticket people for parking on the wrong side of the street in residential areas? I visit a friend there fairly frequently, and I got a warning for the infraction. Just a warning. I have difficulties, and it goes on to list why this person wanted to park on the wrong side of the street to get to where they need to go. My response was, yes, in the town of Selma, we strive to enforce our ordinances and the laws of the state of North Carolina. Lots of people think there are special circumstances to not follow the ordinances and laws. There are not. Our officers have gone gangbusters with ticketing parking on the wrong side of the street. But let's be frank, we're only maxing out at 5 on a squad, and we're not there yet. 6.2 miles of town with a lot of things that we're catching up on just the same. We're probably never going to be super satisfied with the amount of tickets they're parking, but I can tell you, quite frankly, they're working hard on it. We are having discussions about how we increase our patrol for the town of Selma so that we cross the T's and dot the I's on laws and ordinances. We are big fans of the broken window theory. The broken window theory is if you take broken windows in homes very seriously and address them through code enforcement and make sure you're taking note of them as concerns with police action, you start mitigating some of the bigger problems because you're taking care of the small things. So yeah, 0 seconds for parking on the wrong side of the street. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to talk about the 4th of July. I think town Selma violated their own law too for public safety. Down here, they didn't block this section right here in the 4th of July, and people started turning right going towards the railroad track. And people had I see people backing up in 3-4 turns, stuff like that. I had to stay at the road, make sure no car don't go in. But they didn't.
You're saying you would prefer us block off South Rayford completely on the 4th of
Yeah,
July?
on 4th of July, people are out there in the street, stuff like that. But I had to stay there and make sure no cars don't go in.
We'll consider that.
That means the town of Selma ain't doing their job for public safety.
I think we made a decision not to block off that part of the road so people could come in there.
You need
But
to.
if you think we should, we'll take a closer look at it next year. Absolutely.
Because a lot of people going in and out, walking, stuff like that.
I appreciate the information. Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I have a question about a program maybe being started in the town of Selma.
Definitely off subject. Yeah, not for today. But when's the next open forum?
August 8th.
August 8th.
August 8th, Saturday. 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock, we do our open forums quarterly. But this next one is August 8th on Saturday. That's a fantastic time to take up that conversation. All right, August 8th, 1 o'clock.
Please try and come.
Absolutely. Here. Yes, here. We have, yes, ma'am.
We're having a meeting tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
Trying to get our thoughts together. Then we come back Thursday night. And then to stay on top of what is actually happening and changing, we need to attend the planning board meeting. Is that what?
So yes, a lot of this, not all of it, but a few of these things will go through planning board because it's part of chapter 17. Not all of it will. We won't probably take up the entirety of code changes until September. And then a public hearing will be announced for those particular pieces of code that will be changed for September. So pay attention particularly, and again, whatever might be coming through planning in August, and then, excuse me, particularly for our public hearings in September. It might not even be September, it might push into October. We're certainly not going to rush through the conversation, but earliest we'd have it all polished up and ready to go would be September. Any other questions? Closing down the floor. Floor is closed for, oh, wait. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Okay, so people are allowed to schedule meetings for neighborhood.
Yeah, you absolutely.
So how does the person do that?
Email. Email is the easiest way. You can catch me on the street and say hello. I poke around the neighborhoods all the time. But for me personally, email is probably the easiest way. If you want my phone number before you head out, I'll give you that as well. You can text me. That's the super easy way. But yeah, that's how that works.
Keep in mind, if you want to talk to more than one Councilman, you only can talk to two, three is a forum, and then everybody has to be, it has to be a quorum.
Three would be a quorum, and that's a legal meeting, and we can't do
Yeah,
those without announcing them.
On meeting in person is what they're.
And I know the town's grown here the last couple of decades. Have we thought about adding another council member to 5 instead of 4?
No, we're nowhere near that point yet. We're still only at 7,300. We're not above 10,000, and usually when you get to that 10,000 number is when you add a couple more. But at this rate, let's be serious. We have a hard time filling boards. We have a hard time getting people to run for office. And let me be very, very straightforward about this. Any council, any government official, any elected official across this country has walked into office not understanding what they were getting into, us included. The amount of things that we juggle, particularly in this climate, as elected officials is absurd. The amount of things that we need to understand is absurd for folks that aren't getting paid an actual living wage to do a job. You have seen in other communities where it has been noted that council did not have the appropriate oversight of X, Y, and Z. And this is why this bad thing happened to this community. This is why this community is running out of money. This is why this community couldn't do this, that, and third. And it has become a function of we've gotten so complicated in government, the need for elected officials to understand what's going on is high. So, A, I'd say we're not that big, and then B, I'm happy to see the amount of people that are in this room right now. But on an average Tuesday or Thursday at a council meeting, you're not here. You are here.
We're both here.
Thanks for asking that question. I'm right there with you. I think we need 5.
We've got 5. He thinks we need 7, and I don't.
6.
I think at this rate, what we need is folks to really pay attention in our communities all across this nation to what's going on in our politics. The reason that you have these conversations about utility bills skyrocketing isn't a local thing. That is a state thing. That is a federal thing, that some of the moves we've made over the last couple of decades have made it so that Johnston County is having a conversation right now that over the next 8 years, they're going to raise the sewer rates 10% every single year. That comes out to more than 100%. That's more than doubling your rates over 8 years. What, 114% and some change? Somebody check me on that math later. But again, it's not good. And it's because we as populations have missed what has happened in between. And it's our job as elected officials to definitely pay attention to what's happening in between and represent your interests to mitigate some of those circumstances. Our conversations about regionalization are to mitigate some of those circumstances. Our conversations about, particularly at the state level, about not allowing Duke to raise the electric utility rate themselves 18% over 2 years is part of that conversation. You had a hand up?
Yeah, I was just, because I know he mentioned an extra council member, and you said approximately 10,000 members, 10,000 residents. Ada, North Carolina is a good example. They only have like 5,300 residents, and they have 5 council members and a mayor. And so then it's,
What makes Aiden a good example?
because then you have enough on the council that the mayor is still a figurehead, but I think the reason why they're saying it is that the mayor is a figurehead to help lead and guide the council, but doesn't have an actual vote on what direction the council goes in for the city. So,
Why would you do that?
How many citizens did you say? I'm sorry.
Probably about 7,300 now.
Okay, well, quick Google search, and for what it's worth. A town municipality with 7,500 citizens typically has a council size of 5 to 9 members, excluding the mayor.
You said 7,500.
Yes.
That 7,300 is a guess right now, and we're.
The apartments over there in Eastfield will add up.
We'll change that, and again, then if we want to have some deep discussions about adding council members, we also, again, need to have deep discussions about making sure people show up for board meetings and these conversations.
Well,
But again,
I'm just saying.
let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
I live outside, but.
Not in town. Wait.
No, but
Hold on just a moment. Where do you live?
I live outside of the town of Selma, but I own approximately 55 to 60.
So your question was?
City limits.
My question is, because, you know, I'm a business owner, so I do have stake in this town, and I truly love this town. This town means a lot to the coffee shop, and it means a lot to my husband and I. So we want to see Selma grow. And with that growth, I mean, just like she made of the point, the apartment complexes that are coming over in Eastfield, how many apartment complex, I mean, how many apartments are coming in there? So that's technically right there, that's a neighborhood coming in right over across 95. And they need representation just as much as the rest of Selma needs reps. So.
We are at large for our council. You saying we need to start districting our?
No, I'm just saying that we should I think we should have at least one more council member on the board, just as an, you know, because I think you as the figurehead, you're the mayor. You should be leading the council the way a mayor should lead a council, but the council should be the one that's making the decisions for the town, because they're the ones that the citizens voted as council members to lead them as their council members. So really, in reality, if you look, Aden is a great example. They're 5,300 people. They have at least 5 council members and a mayor. So
Are they doing it as well as we are?
Yeah, actually, Aden, we used to live right outside of Aden, and yes.
Good transformation.
Yeah.
You say you lived outside Aden or in Aden?
I have a very good friend that has lived in Aden her entire life.
You were in Greenville.
We were in Greenville.
Oh, okay. So at the end of the day, that is a question for our citizen, or conversation for our citizens to have long term.
Well, yeah, I pay taxes. I have no, okay, really in reality.
Yes, sir.
What it all boils down to is they trying to push you out from your vote and letting everybody else vote.
Yeah, I know. I just chuckle at it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, sir. But at the end of the day, our citizens certainly need to have that conversation. And also at the end of the day, we do have to remember that our duty is to first listen to our citizens.
Okay,
So business owners as taxpayers are a very different conversation. That is folks that come in that get to utilize the foundation that we built to make money.
Okay, so my tax dollars mean nothing. They pay your salary.
Yeah,
They pay your salary.
and we don't have,
You know, I'm 50, almost 3 years old. I was born and raised in the town of Selma, and I want it to be nice. I want it to be a great place to live. How long have you been here?
I think I'm on 9
Where
years.
did you come from? Beulahville or New York?
No, he's not from New York. He lies.
I heard Beulahville. But anyway, I think that's it, what you just said, and it was.
It's not a dig, it's a fact. The citizens that live in the town of Selma need to have that
But the
conversation.
taxpayers and property owners deserve as much respect, and if you don't think so,
You do deserve respect. In fact, we had a wonderful conversation with the folks at Cisco the other day. Cisco is by far our largest tax contributor in this community. They have been wonderful business owners. They have been very helpful to the town of Selma, and the town of Selma has, of course, been very helpful to them, just like we are to every other business owner when we can be. The conversation about Rocking on Rayford is a wonderful conversation about downtown business owners and how we attempt to be helpful with our regulations, our ordinances, to be helpful to our business owners. But our obligation to our business owners is very different to our obligation to our citizens. Very different. And that's a fact. Anybody else?
To clarify, I don't think, it's not in our hearts to shut you out if that's what you, so that's not what was going on from Kim's point, but with the growth of Soma, it makes sense to me to increase the strength of the council and add somebody else. And, and then in terms of, value and respect to people, we love Selma. I hope you consider us part of Selma because that's where our heart is. And I see people as people, and I see a lot of people here that love Selma and want it to become the best it can be. So, I just wanted to clarify that.
Anybody else? Before we shut down comments, still giving some time. Closing them up. So, any part of that ordinance conversation that we have any heartburn about, anything that we need to polish up, particularly when we're looking at the off-street parking, do we want to list out kind of appropriate surfaces for parking?
We need to look at it, yeah.
Now again, are you serious about saying you believe people can just park on dirt?
In my yard?
Whoa, time for comments is done.
If it's in my yard and I got dirt, I should be able to park on it.
And we're doing it too, ain't you?
And I've been doing it too.
Understandable. So with that,
You know, you want to show the town, since I have a whole, try to determine if they use it as a vote. The town, the citizens
want to do
like
the
a,
referendum?
Referendum, they say, if they say it that way, but they vote it down, sorry on it.
That's
You know,
interesting.
Yeah, it should be like the referendum. Put it to the
So-
citizens.
Take the words out of our head.
Put it to
Yeah.
put it to the citizens.
So do we think there's a way to take that question about parking on dirt in yards to the citizens, I mean, as a whole?
Mayor, let me interject.
Yeah.
The manager and I have talked to you about it for statute that's been passed by the General Assembly that the Eastfield Reynolds.
Oh.
Gonna change last week.
Oh, good.
So I wouldn't go too deep, yeah, there's,
So does that preclude some of this conversation?
Thank
the
you.
Eastfield Wetland.
Hey, very cool. Will we know that? Yeah, we'll know that through tomorrow. Easy
I got it
peasy.
yesterday.
They didn't hear you.
Can we clarify some of the-
So he's saying that they have just received as of today, ink still wet, on statute coming down from the General Assembly about parking that we need to look at before we get too deep in the weeds, because we're gonna have to make sure we align with that statute just the same. Very cool. Good to know. All right. So with that being said, I'm not gonna be shy about the conversation that, again, things have changed in the town of Selma. We are improving. We're getting better. I am curious to wonder what type of conversations we were having around the time buildings were falling into the street, and what our concerns were then. We certainly can't go back to that. Does anybody else have anything? A motion to adjourn?
So moved.